What's good, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back to another F1 video. Hockenheimring. Hopefully I said that right. Shout out to the perspective with the video. All credit goes to him. But Hockenheimring. We are finna check it out. We are finna see what's on. I don't really know why it's abandoned. I am assuming this was an old F1 track. And for some reason, they stopped racing here. So, some must have happened. Some must have went down. Why that's not the case. I feel like I know. But I don't. But I feel like I do. But I just don't. So anyway, we are finna check it out. We are finna see what's on. As always, don't forget to like the video. And sub as well if you are new to the channel. And yes, I did get a new mic. So if I do sound a tad bit different, let me know. It should be a lot more clear. Stuff like that. But my last mic died. And I didn't know that until I was getting ready to record. So there's like those 2 days I didn't record because of that, but we should be good. We should be back. As always, I appreciate you guys and girls, and that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much the intro. As always, let's go and let's get started, man.
I've always been fascinated by this circuit. The massive run through the forest is what I look back on as such an icon of speed in Formula 1. But that forest section that I love so much, for some reason, was what kind of caused the demise of.
I'm sorry, but doesn't this look like a Bigfoot type of land? Like, imagine like walking through here, and next thing you know, you see some big MF, Bigfoot, if he's real. I don't know if he is. You guys can discuss that in comments. But what if he's just in like the woods? Next thing you pop out and you just see him. What? Or some weird wild animal, like a bear, some deer, stuff like that. Cause this was a track. Ooh, but what if it's like some ghosts?
This former track. The Hockenheimring has a history, and some of its old sections sit abandoned in a forest to this day. So, what exactly happened? On the 29th of May 1932, the Dreieckscourse, translated to Triangle Course, was officially opened, designed by a timekeeper named Ernest Christ, who simply wanted a racetrack in his hometown of Hockenheim, so he went ahead and designed one. The first layout was named Triangle Course for a reason, simply because of its triangular shape. 6 mostly sharp corners feature in the layout with some long straights, not the type of layout we're used to these days. The layout was used from 1932 until 1938, where the first major modifications would take place. By 1938, the circuit had changed quite a bit and was much less triangle shaped. The circuit was shortened from 12 kilometers down to just over 7.5. One of the big changes was the inclusion of the S-curve, which saw a long run into the forest, swinging back around and rejoining the original triangle hairpin. The triangle course was no more, and the circuit had a new name. During World War II, the circuit would take some damage, and after the repairs, the circuit would be renamed once again, this time to the Hockenheimring. The track would eventually start seeing some real success, with MotoGP races taking place at the Hockenheimring, while alternating with other circuits. 1965 would see the Hockenheimring change once again, with the stadium section being added, and then, after the tragic death of racing legend Jim Clark in 1968, 2 chicanes were added and barriers. In 1982, another chicane was added to the S-curve section. The first chicane would also be made slower. Slight adjustments would take place throughout the years, and the forest section now featured 3 chicanes: Clark, Ost, and Senna. Why did this circuit get exposed so badly as the years went on?
Why did it choose that name? But you could just look at it and it's kind of, to me, it just seems like a weird area to be in. Like, it looks like it's just in like the middle of like a forest, basically. Like, that's what it is. Like, it's just, obviously we know that, but like, it just seems like it's just in like the middle of like a big old forest. But the way that they made the track, stuff like that, it's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's a pretty cool track to what it seems like. But it's just like, it's.
And why was it Formula 1?
It's just in the middle of nowhere.
To change once
like.
again.
Even though
the circuit's character
was
extremely difficult, not exactly from a driving sense, but more on the setup side of the car. Do you opt for low downforce, or the opposite, in order to make up time in the stadium section? The track length was quite something as well, meaning you'd be looking at a 45 lap race. Majority of the grandstands were situated in the stadium section, which meant very limited viewing. The run into the forest was almost isolated from everything else. During the mid-80s turbo era, new fuel restrictions had been introduced, which limited the amount of fuel allowed during a race. Drivers would sometimes run out of fuel, including Formula One legend Alain Prost, who would run out of fuel at the end of the 1986 race, pushing his car to the finish line before giving up altogether. The year 2000 was when the Hockenheimring's layout was again put under the spotlight, and more questions were asked. Change was almost certainly on the way. In 2000, Rubens Barrichello would start from 18th, but would go on to win, claiming his first ever Formula One win, which has gone down as one of the more emotional moments in Barrichello's career. Most of the overtakes throughout that race would happen deep in the forest.
That's why I feel like I know something about this track because of Barrichello's first win, because we did like a whole video just talking about Barrichello and stuff like that. So I do know some of it. I do know a tad bit about Hockenheimring. But
meaning not a whole lot of spectators were witness to the action. The weather was changeable as well, with rain in the stadium section and nearly completely dry in the forest section. About halfway through the race, an unhappy Mercedes employee, who had recently lost his job, decided to walk onto the track in what was a public display of the circuit's near non-existent security measures. In the forest section, Alesi and Denise would collide, sending Alesi into a spin and causing him dizziness for the following 3 days. 2000 was really all the evidence needed to show that things needed to change at Hockenheim once again. Spectator viewing, safety, and security were all brought into question. Martin Brundle would also say during the broadcast of the 2002 German Grand Prix that he and many other drivers of that era didn't like racing at Hockenheim. There was a time where you were lucky to finish this race. You either ran out of fuel, suffered a failure because of the long straights, or crashed. In the early 2000s, F1 were pushing for change in Hockenheim and threatened to race elsewhere if something wasn't done. The state government secured money, and Hermann Tilke had the task of redesigning the Hockenheimring for 2002. A lot of the old Hockenheim forest section was torn up, and trees were planted so nobody could race in that isolated forest ever again. Still today, fans and drivers miss the old Hockenheimring layout, with icons such as Juan Pablo Montoya, Jarno Trulli, and Ron Dennis criticizing the new layout and much preferring the old one. The old Hockenheimring will always be one of Formula One's most iconic circuits, and not just because of the old layout, but because in 1970, drivers decided to boycott the Nürburgring unless changes were made, meaning the first ever time that Hockenheim hosted the German Grand Prix was due to a safety boycott. I find it somewhat ironic that the reason this track not only got a Grand Prix, but also turned into an abandoned piece of history was due to safety concerns. Hockenheim...
I feel like we know... I think... Is that... Was that when Jackie Stewart's, like, teammate... Was this the track he passed at, I think? I forgot his name. I'm not gonna overthink you guys, but... I wonder if that was the reason. Because, like I said, well... They were changing the track, but it just seemed like the track just wasn't really just pleasing everybody. I know, like they were saying that some drivers they like the old layout, but still, like even up to like the 2000 stuff like that, they're still having issues, which you saw with like the just the fuel wearing out. And the crazy part is like when you said like the drivers go into the woods and nobody can really see them. Like, what? Did we have a Mercedes guy crossing the road?
Such a steady relationship with Formula One in recent years. In 2006, it was announced that starting from 2007 until 2010, Formula One in Germany would be shared between the Nürburgring and the Hockenheimring. It was, in some ways, the best of both worlds. When 2010 came around, the race was set to go ahead at the Hockenheimring as per the agreement, though there was a potential problem which put the whole race in jeopardy. The track owners and and city weren't prepared to pump more money into the event, but a last-minute deal was struck in September 2009, which would see the Hockenheimring stay on the Formula 1 calendar until 2018. F1 in Germany would still be shared between the Nürburgring until 2013, but the Nürburgring would be under new ownership in 2014. A deal was unable to be made to continue with the alternating arrangements, and the future of Formula 1 ever going back to the circuits was doubtful. The Hockenheimring still stuck to holding the race every second year, so in 2015 and 2017, Germany would be absent from the Formula 1 calendar. Formula 1 in Germany would be in doubt altogether after 2018, as the contract was set to end, but another year was added in 2019, and we got one of the most entertaining and best races of the year. There was no deal for the Hockenheimring in 2020, but due to the cancellation of many races that year, the Nürburgring made its return to the Formula 1 calendar and was a great moment. But why didn't the Hockenheimring make its way back on the calendar for 2021 and beyond? It all comes down to money. When Michael Schumacher dominated the sport, Germany's eyes were on the racing phenomenon. Sponsors wanted to get involved in the event, a huge broadcasting deal was struck, and it was just a big deal. According to Forbes, in 2006, 232,000 people attended the event over the course of the weekend. Fast forward to 2014, attendance fell to just 94,000, a huge decrease from its prime years. A potential Hockenheim return has been discussed numerous times, though there has been no solid plan or news that it will be returning anytime soon. Hockenheim is missed by many F1 fans. The old layout will never be forgotten, even though it has become overgrown forest. When the sun goes down and day turns into night, the one thing that remains in the forests of the Hockenheimring is the screaming engines from past eras of Formula 1. Thank you for watching this video. Some of you may notice that this is a remake. Obviously, I look back at some of my old content sometimes, and I do cringe a little bit, and I feel like videos on topics like this deserve a bit of a remastering. So I hope you enjoyed it. We're so close to 100,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate it if you could help me out by hitting the subscribe button.
I personally, I will say this, and I could be wrong, I could be completely wrong, but I felt like I didn't know this was like recent regarding Hockenheimring. I felt it because the way that it started off, like 1930s stuff like that, I'm like, okay, this was discontinued like a long time ago, and obviously the money is gonna play a big part in it. It's hard to find two tracks in one country. Like that's why, like the U.S. has like Miami, Vegas, stuff like that. Like Texas. I mean, it's the U.S. so the money is always gonna be there. I'm not saying Germany isn't like that, because Germany is a very, very good country as well, economic wise as well. It's just unfortunate that they couldn't continue with having the Hockenheimring and the Nuremberg track as well. But obviously with the attendance falling, which showed from like 200,000 to like 94,000, it's kind of like, damn, like what's the point of us putting money into it if we're not gonna really get a good outcome of it? But it's crazy how when Schumacher was doing his day, he's got all these sponsorship deals. People in Germany it was a hot commodity in Germany, obviously because he's German. So, which I was surprised, like when Seb was winning like 4 straight and stuff like that. Like where was the maybe I'm missing something about that. But I'm just like, why isn't Seb getting that same, like, why isn't Germany receiving that same thing? But maybe I am missing something. But as always, hope you guys did enjoy the video. And you guys know if I say anything stupid, let me know in the comments down below. As always, stay amazing. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.